Hey there. We are continuing with our basic options trading series here, but today it's going to be a little bit more on the abstract side. I want to talk about the concept of synthetics. One of the reasons I am doing this video is once I started remaking these options trading videos, things started to show up in my YouTube feed or even in my Twitter feed about people doing similar educational options videos. Some of them are even selling courses where you can pay them money to learn how to trade options, but a lot of them don't seem to understand the basics of synthetics. Even today, in my, I don't remember if it was Twitter or YouTube video short, someone was saying you should do a covered call in stock, whatever, stock X instead of a naked put because, and this person gave reasons, when in fact those two trades are synthetic variations of each other. They're identical. So what you choose is really up to you. There's no difference between the two. And this person sells courses in these materials on trading, and I find it personally kind of annoying. So let's get into the slides, and then most of the time I'll spend setting up trades in Tastyworks that are synthetic variations of each other, and you'll be able to see from the risk graph and the statistics and the Greeks that they are indeed identical trades. So let's jump into the slide just for a second and then switch over to the platform. So what are synthetics? Synthetics are different combinations of options or stocks and options that are basically mathematically identical to each other. So the risks are the same and the P&L potential profits and losses are identical for those two different option spreads. I tend to use the term a little bit more loosely, a little bit more sloppily, and use it to basically mean any options position that more or less approximates a different type of options trade. A good example of that, and we haven't done a video on it as of yet on this channel, but we will in the not too distant future, is the so-called poor man's covered call, where you're buying, it's essentially a horizontal spread, where you are buying a longer dated in the money call and selling a shorter dated out of the money call against it to approximate the behavior of a covered call. And as you become more advanced, what I have found is that I accumulate a lot of different positions in the same underlying, especially in the index products like SPY. Currently, I have stock, I have calls against that stock, I have strangles, I have call spreads, I have put spreads. So it's a useful skill to just be able to look at this mass of options positions and say, this synthetically is the same as whatever that position happens to be. In my case, it turns out to be basically a ratioed strangle. And for this video, I'm not going to go into the effects of carrying costs or cost to carry. That primarily shows itself or reveals itself when talking about dividends. And if you go back through the video archives on this channel, I have a video about how to use a synthetic stock replacement to estimate what the dividend is going to be in the index products like SPY or IWM. But for today, we're just going to ignore that. Let's go on to some common synthetic options positions. The most common thing, well, not the most common thing you'll see, but kind of the most fundamental basic thing you'll see is the equivalence between long stock and the option synthetic, a long call and a short put. And all of these options positions assume that they're the same strike. So for example, if you sell an at-the-money put and buy an at-the-money call, that position is identical to being long 100 shares of stock. Other common ones are the covered call and the short put, and that's kind of the thing that triggered this video today, because that's what I saw. This person said, do a covered call, do not do a short put. They're the same thing. What else do we have? Short put spread is the same as a long call spread. Again, assuming the strikes are the same. The same thing holds true with the short call spread being the same as the long put spread. And the butterfly, be it a call butterfly, a put butterfly, happens to be the same as the iron butterfly. So I just refer to them as butterfly spreads rather than any specific detail, any specific type, because they're all the same thing. This will be easier to show if we go into Tasty. So I'm going to show the long stock version and the covered call version, and then even a little bit fancier synthetic long stock made into a synthetic covered call. So let's go over to Tasty and look at that. So here we are in Tasty. I'm going to use Apple as my underlying because it doesn't have any dividends coming up in the near future. And what I'm going to do first is just simulate buying stock. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to click the ask to create a buy order. So I'm buying 100 shares of stock. Let's look at some of our probabilities and Greeks down here. So the POP, the probability of profit for stock, is of course 50%, especially in the short term. P50 is going to be the same because there's no max profit here. Delta is going to be 100. That's the definition of delta basically. The delta of a stock is 1 per share. If we have 100 shares of stock, 100 delta. And 0 theta. So let's go to our Analyze tab here and look at let's go to the curve mode to look at our analysis. And here we go. So this is the behavior. This line here is our P&L given a specific move in the stock. And just as we were talking about stock in the last video, this line would have a slope of 1 per share, or in this case 100. So if the stock moves up $10, we'd make $1,000. If it goes down $10, lose $1,000. So pretty simple, pretty obvious here. So let's clear out that order. Let's go back to the grid, not the grid view, the table view, because I actually prefer to look at options in that way. I have a position on regular October, so I'm going to go to the October 24th weekly options, and let's sell the at the money put basically here, and then buy the at the money call. So let's look at the Greeks here. The probability of profit, again, is about 50% here. There's some, I'm recording this on a weekend, so these option markets are a little bit wide, so this is probably why you're getting the 48 rather than 50. The probability of making 50% is not going to be relevant because there's no max profit. And our delta here, again, just like before, is 100. So let's look at this on the risk graph here. So let's go back to our curve view. And this line here is identical to what we saw before. The slope is 1 per share, or 100 for 100 shares of stock here. Just like in the raw long stock here, if the thing goes up $10, I make $1,000. If it goes down, I lose money dollar for dollar. So this is identical to having a long stock position. So switching back to the options chain, we can understand this. This call is basically right at the money. So if the stock goes up, this put is going to be out of the money, so it's not going to be particularly relevant. But we're going to be making money dollar for dollar with the intrinsic value that this call is going to have. Likewise, if it goes down, this call is not particularly relevant, and this put would be in the money, and we would be losing money dollar for dollar. This is why this position synthesizes out to being identical to long stock. And we could get even fancier if we wanted. If we wanted to do a covered call, obviously we could buy 100 shares of stock and sell an out-of-the-money call against it. Typically I like the 30 delta, but I could do the same with this position. I can go here and sell this call, and now this synthesizes out exactly to what a covered call would do. So let's go to the curve mode again, and you can see here, just like in the covered call, we cap our gains, and then beyond the short call strike here, we're not making any money. But we still are collecting the extrinsic value, the premium for this short out of the money call. So why would you do one over the other? So let's clear this out again here. Let's go back to I really do prefer this table view here. Let's just go with the long stock again. So if I buy 100 shares of stock, and this is in a margin account, I'm going to have to put up the money, 50% of the money needed to make this trade. So 100 shares of stock would be 100 times basically $240. So if I come down here, my buying power reduction would be basically that. It would be $10,000, over 10,000, slightly over $10,000. So a little bit pricey. You have to put up a lot of money to make this trade. So let's clear this out again here. Let's go to the synthetic stock. So buy the call, sell the put. And now I only have to put up about $3,700. So this is capitally more efficient. So if capital if I'm looking for leverage and capital is an issue, the synthetic stock works a little bit better. But just basic long stock is a cleaner trade. So if I don't have any capital concerns, I would go with the long stock. If not, I would go with the synthetic stock to be capitally more efficient. So another common synthetic is the covered call / short put or naked put. So let's close this out here. Let's set up a covered call. So I'm going to buy 100 shares of stock. I'm going to sell the roughly 30 delta call here. Let's switch to our analysis view here. Here is our risk graph here. So our max profit is on this trade is right down here. It's $1,430, and our gains are capped once we hit this strike price of $250. So let's clear out this trade here, and let's just go look what happens if we go back to our table view and we sell the equivalent put. So I was selling this call here before. So I'm sorry, selling this call here and buying stock. So now I am just selling that put, that in the money put there. Let's go back to our risk tab here. Look at the curve view, and it is essentially the same thing. Our gain is capped here at our short strike of $250, and the max profit is basically the same thing at $1,140. So these two trades are identical. Hey, editing Kevin here. One thing I forgot to mention, and I noticed when I was putting together this, editing together this video, I always prefer to trade out of the money options when the strategy calls for it rather than in the money options. So to go back to our covered call example, I would, assuming capital is not an issue, rather buy the stock, sell the out of the money call rather than selling the corresponding in the money put. The liquidity will be better. It's easier to get into and out of the trade, and I find you'll generally have better results if you do that. So as another example, if I want to get short of stock by selling a call spread, I would rather sell that because both of those options, the short and long legs, are going to be out of the money as opposed to buying the corresponding in the money put spread where I have two legs of that spread in the money. Again, the liquidity is going to be better for the short call spread rather than the long put spread. So that's it, guys. It's a little bit more complicated than what we've done the last few videos, but it is an important topic, especially the more advanced the more advanced you get. So if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Again, also if you have topics you want me to go over, you can recommend them in the comments. And until next time, see ya.